Christmas morning, 1895. Snow settles quietly in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The air carries the scent of pine and wood smoke. Beyond Asheville, North Carolina, past miles of forest and a winding private road, iron gates open to a site that resists the word house. Biltmore rises from the hillside like a European relic transplanted to America. Limestone walls, steep slate roofs, towers and turrets catching winter light. 4 acres under one roof. 35 bedrooms. 65 fireplaces. A banquet hall with a ceiling soaring nearly 70 feet. A library holding 10,000 volumes. It is beautiful, undeniably so. But beauty is only the surface. Behind these walls is an invisible world. Boiler rooms that burn coal day and night. Service corridors painted institutional green. Servant staircases hidden from guests. And a workforce moving constantly to keep the illusion alive. Biltmore is not merely a residence. It is a machine, one that consumes labor, fuel, and money at an astonishing rate. This is the story of how that machine was built, who paid for it, and how it survived forces that should have destroyed it. Step into the entrance hall and look up. Stone climbs 3 stories. A vaulted ceiling carries carved oak and painted detail. Marble gleams beneath your feet. Stained glass filters the winter daylight. Everything is designed to overwhelm, to announce that you have entered something deliberate, monumental, and expensive. Move through the showpiece rooms. The library with its hidden, spiral stair. The winter garden under glass with its central fountain. The banquet hall anchored by a triple fireplace. These spaces proclaim wealth and control. But step past them, and another Biltmore appears. Below ground, massive boilers roar like industrial furnaces. Coal arrives by the ton. Radiators feed miles of pipe. Storerooms hold linens, china, crystal, and silver in careful order. Kitchens are laid out not for a family, but for an operation. Narrow staircases and long service corridors allow staff to move unseen. More than 100 people are required to keep Biltmore functioning: maids, footmen, cooks, laundresses, engineers, gardeners, foresters, drivers, electricians, and plumbers. Remove one role and the system falters. The cost is relentless. Wages go out weekly. Maintenance never stops. Slates leak. Pipes burst. Plaster cracks. The heating plant alone demands constant attention. Biltmore is magnificent, but it is also hungry. The man who conceived Biltmore was not what most people expect. George Washington Vanderbilt Secco was born in 1862 into America's wealthiest family. His grandfather, Cornelius Vanderbilt, the Commodore, built a transportation empire of steamships and railroads. The fortune was staggering. But George was different from his siblings. While others built glittering palaces in Newport and New York and chased society's approval, George retreated into books. He was shy, soft-spoken, uneasy in crowds. He reportedly spoke 8 languages. His passions were literature, art, horticulture, and forestry. He traveled frequently to Europe, studying architecture and great estates, absorbing the idea that land and buildings could function as a single, disciplined whole. By his mid-20s, George decided on something his brothers did not want: not a social stage, but a private retreat. A working estate. A place for reading, thinking, and managing land scientifically. In 1888, while visiting Asheville with his mother, George found his setting. Cool mountain air. Dramatic scenery. Newly accessible by rail, but not yet crowded. He began buying land, not acres, but thousands of them. Worn-out farms. Abandoned fields. Eventually, His holdings exceeded 125,000 acres, nearly 200 square miles. This was not impulse. It was a plan. George wanted a house rooted in European tradition, but powered by modern American technology. Grand enough to hold his library and art, yet practical enough to live in year-round. He also wanted the estate to support itself, farms to produce food, forests managed scientifically to yield timber without destruction. The vision was ambitious. It was also enormously expensive. To execute it, George assembled an extraordinary team. He hired Richard Morris Hunt, America's leading architect, trained at the École des Beaux Arts in Paris. Hunt understood how to make buildings feel both historic and modern, monumental yet functional. For the land, George turned to Frederick Law Olmsted, the mind behind Central Park. Olmsted believed landscape was not decoration, but a living system. Soil, water, plants, and people working together. Together, they confronted a logistical nightmare. Nothing required to build Biltmore existed nearby. So George created it. A private rail spur was driven to the site. A brick kiln fired millions of bricks. A woodworking mill produced flooring and paneling. A stone yard dressed Indiana limestone shipped by rail. Temporary housing rose for laborers. At its peak, more than 1,000 men worked on the hill. Italian stonemasons set carved limestone block by block. Local carpenters shaped oak interiors. Engineers threaded electricity and plumbing through medieval-looking walls. Everything was numbered, inventoried, and installed to exact specifications. This was not fast work. It was work meant to last centuries. When the house opened for Christmas in 1895, another part of George's vision was just beginning. The surrounding land was damaged. Stripped by logging, scarred by erosion, its forests fragmented. George wanted more than scenery. He wanted proof that abused land could be healed. Forestry as a science barely existed in America. So George imported it. He hired Gifford Pinchot, freshly trained in Europe, who introduced selective cutting, fire management, reforestation, and long-term planning. Later, Carl Schenck expanded the work and founded the Biltmore Forest School, the first forestry school in the United States. Biltmore became a living laboratory. Practices refined here shaped American forestry for generations. But science did not eliminate cost. For a time, the numbers worked. George lived quietly. He avoided spectacle. Farms, dairies, gardens, and timber offset part of the expense. Investment income covered the rest. Then the math changed. In 1913, the federal income tax was introduced. Suddenly, a significant share of George's income went to Washington, instead of Biltmore's boilers and wages. George adjusted cautiously, but time ran out. In 1914, at age 51, George Washington Vanderbilt died suddenly following surgery. He left behind a masterpiece and a financial strain. Edith Vanderbilt inherited not just a house, but a problem. Operating costs hovered around $250,000 in a year, millions in today's dollars. Revenue covered only a fraction. Without change, Biltmore would collapse. Edith made hard, unsentimental decisions. She sold nearly 2/3 of the estate to the federal government, forming what became Pisgah National Forest, preserving George's forestry legacy while securing capital. She reduced staff, closed wings, simplified gardens, cut personal spending. And when the Great Depression struck, she made the most radical choice of all. She opened Biltmore to the public. In 1930, during America's darkest economic moment, visitors paid $1 to walk through rooms once meant for quiet contemplation. They came in greater numbers than expected. Tourism did not make Biltmore rich, but it made survival possible. During World War II, the estate served another purpose, housing priceless works from the National Gallery of Art, including paintings by Rembrandt and Raphael. Biltmore became a vault, protecting culture while war raged overseas. After the war, Biltmore evolved again. Professional management, expanded tourism, events, a winery, careful preservation, scientific forestry continued. Modern systems were woven discreetly into historic fabric. By the 21st century, Biltmore had become one of America's most visited historic houses, employing thousands and sustaining an entire regional economy. So who paid for Biltmore? The workers who built it, George who funded it, Edith who saved it, and the visitors who sustain it today. The lesson is clear. Beauty alone is not enough. Grand visions demand resources, and survival requires adaptation. Biltmore endures not because it remained unchanged, but because it learned to serve. If you enjoyed this deep investigation into Gilded Age architecture and the families behind it, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments which house we should explore next. The Breakers, Hearst Castle, Lyndhurst, or something forgotten and waiting to be rediscovered. Every mansion has its shadows. Every dream has its price. Thank you for watching.